1, 2, 3, 4. What up, y'all? It's your boy, Jermaine Events. How is everyone doing this week? Hope last week was phenomenal. And I hope this week is too. For everyone. For everyone. That's how I feel. I'm calling this episode Moca. Gonna call this episode Moca. It's all about that Mocha chocolate. Yeah. Talking about that lady marmalade lady. God damn. No, but we call this it's episode 87. We're gonna call it Mocha. Just because it's just what's on my mind. It's what's on my mind. We're gonna get into some things this week. It's 420 this week. Happy 420 to all my smokers. Shout out to all y'all. Those who do it legally or illegally. It is what it is. Do your thing, Shout out to y'all. I don't have, man, I need fucking sound effects. That's what I need. I need to cue the effects. Every week I'm like, dude, I need to cue the effects. I mean, it's not like I'm not on here working on beats like every week. So I'm in there. I'm on this program using this soundboard here. This, my MIDI controller, using my Atom. I could cue these sounds, but I just don't. Could get some shit ready for the show, but I don't. And then as I be talking, I be like, damn, that would have been perfect for some gunshots right there, or that fucking horn, fucking, just whatever, all the cool podcasts, what the cool podcasts do. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys social media. If you want to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You can follow my personal account at my name's Jermaine. You guys can email this podcast at Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. You can listen, or you can follow this podcast at Babylon5pod.podbean.com. You can listen to this podcast. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. You can even listen to this podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts stream. If you guys are on Xbox, go ahead and add me. My gamer tag is SauceToBoss414. And I found out that most of the time, most of the people who've recently been like adding me on Xbox like crazy, or people who see me on 2K. I don't usually be trying to let's just say I haven't played a game online with one person I've felt like should have the gall to send me a friend request. I'm like the only nigga that plays defense. Alright? There's two sides of this game. You don't just play the other side of the ball. So I didn't realize niggas would have the gall. Have the fucking gall to add me. But y'all niggas can add me. Add me at SauceBoss414, man. I'm saying, when I play 2K, man, and I play online, I'm trying to win the game, nigga. So, if y'all ain't gonna play defense, it's two sides of this. I'm not too worried about scoring. My player can't shoot threes. Matter of fact, I can basically only dunk and hit layups. I'm not worried about fancy shots. My point is, buckets are gonna come, especially if we focus on defense and get stops. If we focus on defense and get the board. If I'm there in this perfect spot boxing out, and on offense, and I get the offensive rebound, as long as you guys are in your right spot taking shots. If you miss, then I'm there to recover that. And then boom, there's the dunk, there's the layup. That's how I get my money. That's how I eat. That's what I'm not worried about scoring when I play 2K. I'm trying to win the game. All right? That's where I'm at. So you can add me Alright, you can add me. But if you play a game with me and you're not going to play defense, you're not going to try to actually win this game, you're just trying to fucking shoot the ball like a goddamn psychopath. There's psychopaths on there. Like, what are you doing? You're just shooting. You just want the ball. You're just going to keep shooting. Contested shots. You blocked. Reporting your... I'm going to report this nigga's account and block that nigga. And I maybe should be streaming this. So go to twitch.tv/Babylon5 so I can maybe switch or even start to stream. I mean, I say I'm pretty decent on 2K. And when I play online, I guess I should stream that, but I don't really like... I don't know, man. It just pisses me off when people don't play defense. So I try not to bring too much negative into my positive world, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't really want to stream things like that. I try to stream myself playing games like Civilization, or I haven't played Dragon Ball Z in, like, it's probably since... I played it, like, once, to be honest with you. I bought that game. When did that come out? Like, almost 2 years ago? I played it, like, one time. I streamed like one time. That was probably the one time that I got the most viewers, was when I was streaming Dragon Ball Kakarot or Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, whatever the game is. I forget what it's called. That tells you how much I've played that game. It's not a bad game, actually. It's not a bad game. I was just like, I don't know. I didn't want to do it all online. I hadn't seen anything about the game. I was like, let me try to learn some shit before I go through here and be dying online. And then I didn't, never went back to it. So there's that. You guys can go ahead and check out the merchandise. You know, I would if I was you. Or go to teespring.com/stores/BOFpod-shop. Sorry, I lost my place there. And if you guys want to support the podcast in general and get this episode immediately as soon as it's done, you guys go to patreon.com/Babylon5pod, and, you know, there's a bunch of extras on there. You get exclusive music, just me being Jermaine on there, you know what I'm saying? Exclusive vlogs. You get more Babbles from your boy, Jermaine Event, at patreon.com/Babylon5pod. Also, if you guys are on TikTok, if you guys are on TikTok, go ahead and add me at Babylon5Podcast, because why not? Though, I say you niggas need to hit up that Instagram, if we're going to be real. I mean, it's not that I don't upload to, it's pretty much the same content that I would upload to TikTok, but just not as often because the Instagram's popping. And I'm of the concept of go with what's working for you, you know? Everybody should stick to that concept. Yeah, it would be dope to be popping everywhere at once, but if you're popping right here, then focus on that and keep building that up, because you're popping right there. It'll be easier. It's easier to do things here. It's easier to build yourself here, build your name here. Do what's working for you, and the rest will come. But as I was saying, you know, it's 420 this week. What is today, the 18th? I think today's the 18th, ladies and gentlemen. This episode drops the 19th. And if you guys are listening to this episode on Tuesday, that's a very special happy 420 to you. Happy 420 to you. You know, I used to take a full week of work off for this day. Go on vacation somewhere. Even before I would go on vacation somewhere, I would take a full week off. Because, you know, that's how much of a smoker I felt I was. At like 18, at like 19, that's how much I felt I needed. I needed 7 days off to smoke weed for 420. It's like 13 years ago. It's pretty interesting. But I still, I mean, let's be real here. If there was no COVID, man, I don't know, shit, I don't even know where I'd be working. I know maybe a year and a half ago, I was working at one job and I was like, yo, there's some shit going on in China. This shit is wide open here. And I don't know, it was just like a suburban, small little town that I was working in. And I was like, this is going to be one of the last places where they follow any kind of policies or any shit like that. So I was like, I need to get out of there before niggas started dying, you know, as the retail industry. And then COVID hit. And sure enough, niggas was dying everywhere in these fucking places. And it was slow for a lot of people to enforce to put their employees in masks. So, like, no COVID, man. Who knows, is what I'm saying. Like, maybe I'd be on a week-long vacation right now in fucking Oregon or some shit right now. That's probably where I'd be right now, out in Oregon. I take 420-cations, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I used to call them. So I went to Alaska, like, 4 years ago? About 4 years ago. Me and Sarah and I. Before that, I was flew out to Denver twice. The first time I think I saw some wrong information. Or maybe I just, like, read that the Cannabis Cup was in Denver the year before. So I just, like, assumed it was going to be there. There was no other information other than, like, about the Cannabis Cup the previous year. There was no information about that year. So I was like, then it's clearly going to be here. So I went down there, and there was no Cannabis Cup that year, I think. Or if it was in California. But I was like, fuck it, I'm here, I'm going to get high. I think I went and saw some comedians. Saw some comedians, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I saw some comedians. I don't know. I got high. It was 420. And then I saw that maybe... No, I don't think the Cannabis Cup was in Alaska when we went, because I think I was just going to Alaska because Alaska had legalized it and it's random as fuck. I had never heard of anybody just going to Alaska. So I didn't know anybody personally. So that was the whole reasoning for that, was that they legalized it. And I ain't know no niggas that went out there. Y'all can do regular shit if you want. You could do the by the book shit, the normal, like, walked road or paths, normal taken paths, or you could just do some shit. Just do some shit, you know what I'm saying? To a limit. But just do some shit, you know? That was as far as my thinking was. Honestly, as I've said here, it was some rough times in Alaska. That was definitely one of those sparks in my life where I was like, man, I should probably train like some jujitsu or something. I was even talking about that with my wife the other day. Like, I feel like everybody should just be training constantly, training just to defend you, just to defend yourself. It's you we're talking about. Everyone should just be training some sort of self-defense. You should have some options in case it's just you and somebody, and screaming ain't the answer. If screaming ain't enough to either get the attention or get the attention of someone who isn't in the majority of people that will fall under the whole bystander shit and just hope somebody else helps out. Speaking of bystanders, I seen this shit on YouTube where it was talking about this motherfucker. It was like when good deeds or being a good Samaritan goes wrong, and some nigga was like trying to sexually assault a woman in an alley, and this dude went to save the woman, And the attacker had a knife and turned around, stabbed this nigga up. Like, and the woman got away. The attacker ran away. And the dude is just like laying there fucking dying out, asking people for help. And everybody's just walking by this guy. And they said at one point, a passerby stopped and took a selfie with this man dying in the street. You know what I'm saying? So you could, like, you know, what do you do in that situation? I don't know. I don't know if the woman was also training and then he was also training. I feel like they probably could have whooped that dude's ass together, but probably nobody trained in that situation. I'm just saying, if everyone in the world was training, if this was some Naruto type shit, everybody was just fucking ready ninjas, and just niggas is at different level, but everybody is just active ninjas, the world would be a whole different place, nigga. Better hope your jutsu was better than his jutsu, nigga. You better hope your jutsu was better than his jutsu. But I was, I think I told y'all, like, one of my most memorable 420 stories. Maybe I didn't, but if I did, I apologize for repeating it. But I remember it was 420. It was like me, the homie Josh, the homie Ryan. I'm throwing names out here. The homie Tabs was in the car. We in the van. We in the car. We ride slow. We doing things that the dumb niggas do. And so it's Josh's van. He's driving. And it don't matter where everybody else is. It's Josh's driving. They had a van at the time for reasons. But so they had this big van, and so it's me, Josh, he's driving, Ryan's in the car, he's probably in passenger. I'm in the car, obviously. Tabs is there, Tokyo is there, and then I want to say Rashid is there. I think that's the whole crew. And as the dumb niggas we are, we like 18, we probably like 19, 20. Probably like 20 at the most here. I would say definitely 20 at the most, because I know I moved away to Madison when I was 21. So it's like, I could have been 21 actually. Could have been that year that I was 21. Regardless. So yeah, no older than 21. Let's say that. And we're like dumb niggas. It's 420. And I took a week off from work. Niggas is smoking. But we're smoking in houses. We're doing things like that. But then we would also back in the day, I don't know why we would do this. Like, looking back, it's so fucking hot. We should have been arrested so many times, because it's just, you're just like waving a flag. Like, hey, here, we're doing this over here. We would just drive around a lot, hotboxing blunts. That's what we like to do. And I remember motherfuckers would be like mad if you like crack a window because it's too smoky in here. You know what I'm saying? That's a foul. You don't do that. You need to ride around in a smoky ass car as if that's not super suspicious. As if a cop shouldn't pull over that car right there. But we used to do that shit all the time. Somehow never got arrested. And now I see it. I'll see people doing it, and I'm like, y'all are so stupid. It's so crazy how that looks from the outside looking in, and I used to do it all the time. So we're in this van, and we're hotboxing this van, because it's a pretty big van. We got like 3 blunts in rotation, fat blunts. Everybody put in on these blunts, different strains. We're all smoking. It gets so cloudy in the fucking van that we can't see. We can't see out of the front windshield. We're driving. We can't see out of the front windshield. So we stop the car, and I think Ryan starts to wipe down the front windshield. And from that point, we see a cop car. Like, when we had abruptly stopped because we couldn't see anything, there was, like, another car in front of us, and we wiped the windshield, and it was, like, a cop car going by us. So then we turned immediately. Like, Josh turned immediately, and I'm looking back, because a cop car just went by us. This car is smoky as hell. We couldn't see out of the front. Like, it looks crazy. And I'm just looking back. I think I had to blend my hair. I'm looking back, and and sure enough, like, as we're going down the street, I see them. Oh yeah, and we turn right. We almost hit another police car. So it was super sketchy. We had to stop because the car is super smoky. Couldn't see anything. See a cop car. We turn. Almost hit another cop car. So that cop car, like, when it passes us, the second cop car, it has to turn, but we just almost hit it. And Josh is just driving normal. And the fucking, I'm just looking back, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, oh, they coming in my mind. And and I see the one, like, it's turning, it goes to do a U-turn, and it turns its lights on as it's doing the U-turn. And I was like, oh, yeah, they coming. He just put his lights on. And Josh is like, what? And fucking, that nigga fucking stepped on it. My nigga stepped on it. Hit down the street. Before the cop could even finish the U-turn, we were, like, around the corner at the other end of the block. This nigga speeds through, like, fuck the traffic, drove through the intersection. Luckily, there were no cars coming at the time, but there were a bunch of cars coming after we went by there. And then he went down, like, two or three blocks down that street past the Oakland, east past the Oakland, and then, like, turned into this diagonal parking, and then we all just, like, fucking got out of the car and went separate directions. We just splintered off. It was like, first off, they don't know how many fucking people were in this car. They don't know who were in this car. They don't know where this fucking car is, and we just fucking splintered off. My nigga, we splintered off. I think I was with Rashid or some shit. We just splintered off. And then we come to find out later that there was a similar looking van. Like, because the cops never came down our street or anything, but there was a similarly looking van that was pulled over on Oakland. And and it was crazy because then I think we all, like, we're gonna go to Josh's house, or somebody else had a car parked somewhere, or other people had cars parked somewhere, because we all met up, and we were gonna, like, drive somewhere else. We were gonna go to those cars and then drive elsewhere, because the whole situation just got super hot. And I remember we were walking by Josh's house, and I'm just, like, talking to people. I'm not even paying attention to what's going on. I'm just, like, having a conversation, and I said something to Josh, and he, like, didn't respond, and I turn, and I see that he's, like, across the street, or walking by his house. He was, like, parked across his parents' house, and he was, like, walking into his house, and I see that there was, like, just a cop car, just a cop just, like, staring at us, and he just, like, ducks off and goes in the house. And it's just, like, super sketch that he does this. And it's just like, bro, what the fuck? What the fuck, man? But that's probably, like, the hypest fucking story, nigga. Like, just sitting in the car, like, oh, shit, the boys is coming. And we somehow got the fuck out of there. Nigga, when I saw that shit happen, when I see shit like that happen in movies, it's like, no fucking way that would happen. No way you're getting out of there. Shit happened to work out. I mean, yeah, shit happened to work out. But that was a fucking exhilarating moment, my nigga. It's just like we didn't need to ride around doing some hot ass shit like that. Hot boxing. But niggas was doing it. And the police came for our ass, and we thankfully got the fuck out of there. Thankfully. Because they locking niggas like me up. I would have been gone for like a year or two on one of these goddamn correctional facilities. Probably would have never heard from me again. Who knows? Who knows? Shit don't sound nice. I knew a nigga. I knew a few motherfuckers that worked for the correctional facilities. And they were like, yo, I beg anybody, like... Well, she was like, first and foremost, anybody that I know, please never go to jail. Like, it's just, like, the most inhumane shit you'll ever experience. And she was also saying, like, please don't ever work there if you can avoid it. And, you know what I'm saying? So, like, it's just rough. I know people who've been there, and it's, you know, I think they do like that open, like people sleep in an open, like a gymnasium or some shit, and with bunk beds, just a bunch of bunk beds in a gymnasium, and basically nobody watches you. So whatever happens, and yeah, everybody, all the other prisoners are watching it happen to you, but ain't nobody coming to help you, is what it sounds like up here. And if you guys watched that documentary about the most incarcerated zip code, which is here, you got the guy who's saying he did jail for like 0.5. He had a blunt, he had a Nick sack. He went to jail for a year off of that. So it's wild shit. For reasons like that, it was like we would do hot shit like that when we were younger, and it's just because shit is so harsh. I would fly to other states where it was legal, and I could live the legal life, because it's just obnoxious, man. It's just obnoxious. But I'm telling everybody right now, if you're hearing this, man, if you're riding around hotboxing, cut that out. You look silly. You're just asking for trouble. Why do anything hot like that? You know? Act like you got some sense. God damn. Carry yourself with some respect. God damn it. Act like you got some sense. I'm getting old, ladies and gentlemen. So this weekend, man, so last week, I was like, for weeks, nigga, I was saying, if you guys seen the Ben Askren, Jake Paul press conference, then clearly, Ben Askren was gonna beat Jake Paul. I was like, this nigga ain't never been in a fight with a real fighter. Ben Askren was undefeated before, what's his name? Jorge Masvidal got lucky and knocked him out. And that's the truth. He was undefeated before that. And I felt like he was a real fighter in that. Just like, I don't know, man. Everything, his confidence going into it. The videos I've seen of him actually, like, throwing punches and just really improving on his striking, I was like, okay. Like, maybe Askren could, like, actually tough this one out. Like, get him tired and rough and get, like, a 7th round TKO. Like he was saying. I was like, yeah, I believe it could happen. But as you guys should know by now, Ben Askren went in there and fucking was TKO'd in the very first round. Now, I thought it was alarming when I saw Tyron Woodley in Ben Askren's corner. They could only have 2 cornermen. And one of Askren's cornermen was Tyron Woodley, who I believe is on a 5-fight losing streak, or 4. He's on a 4-fight losing streak right now. Just knocked out in his last fight, or submitted. He's actually submitted by a darts in his last fight, but was hurt badly on the feet. Hurt badly a few times. I thought that was alarming. Ben Askren came in with he had some like old, like 1940 style, like the old school, like when you think of the stance, like when you look at Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, the way that fucking dude is standing, that's how Ben Askren was walking forward on Jake Paul. And Jake Paul is just, like, splitting the guard, hitting him with clean jabs, and, like, Askren didn't react too well to that punch, and I think Askren maybe got off, like, one good punch in there before he was fucking hurled to the floor by a punch of Jake Paul. Jake Paul hit him with this overhand right that just floors Askren. Askren gets up, but they're saying, like, there's certain things that the ref is looking for from Ben, and because Ben is not a boxer, he doesn't necessarily know what those things are. And it's like you're supposed to, like, put your arms down or some shit like that, and then he wants to, and then, like, the ref is gonna grab your arms, and then you come forward or some shit. There's just, like, I saw, like, the Weasel post, and there's, like, something that the ref does with boxers after they get knocked down to show that they're still there. But Ben, because, like, I know he's a fighter, he got up and he's just, like, coming forward. And it kind of looks like he's just, like, falling into the referee. And the ref is just like, nah, this is over, and stops the fight right away. Maybe Ben was done, but it was a questionable stoppage, to be honest. You know? It was a bit of a questionable stoppage. Yeah, it was a questionable stoppage there. Ben, I mean, just looking at the way, I know he was moving in that fight, he didn't look too good. I mean, he's coming off giving him excuses right now, you know? He's coming off a hip replacement. He's got a fake hip. He wasn't able to train for like 6 months. And he said then he got the call. That was the first time he, like, was able to train for anything, really. Came off the couch after this hip replacement surgery and tried to train for this boxing match. And he did a terrible job in the boxing match. It just didn't look like that could have gone well for him. Like, if the referee had let that go, like, Askren was talking about putting pressure on Jake Paul, but he was staying away from Jake Paul. He was circling, trying to stay away from the power of Jake Paul. Wasn't a lot of pressure that he was trying to put on Jake Paul when the time actually came. So it's just unfortunate, you know. I felt like it was easily the most interesting fight of the weekend. Out of every fight, you even had Kelvin Gastelum fighting Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum, finally, after that fight was canceled a couple years ago. And for me, it was like, to me on paper, that fight is one-sided. To this fight here between Ben Askren and Jake Paul, there's so many question marks there. There's so many question marks. So what happens if he's not able to knock Ben out, get him out of there in one round, and he has to face some real adversity? Is Jake Paul a real fighter? Is he going to quit? You know what I'm saying? There's so many question marks. But so going into it, that fight is way more interesting than Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum to me, because for me, I feel like you already know who's going to win that fight going into it. In my opinion, I feel like it's pretty one-sided. In this fight, you had a lot of question marks, so unfortunately, it did not go Askren's way. Woodley's calling out Jake Paul. I would love for him to fight Woodley. That would be a very interesting fight. But, you know, the tweets are coming back, man. Freezing Cold Takes posted Ben Askren tweeting about Nate Robinson getting knocked out by Jake Paul saying, why would he agree to this? This is embarrassing. And then he's knocked out. Faster than Nate Robinson. So, we gotta wait, man. I don't think this says that Jake Paul is a real fighter by no means. You notice he's not calling out boxers. He's not calling out boxers. So, what does that tell you? He's not trying to fight other boxers. He's trying to fight people from other sports. He's just trying to fight other celebrities. Names. He's not trying to box boxers. If he calls out Oscar De La Hoya or some shit like that, I'll be like, cool. That's cool. Put him in there with Floyd. I see that. I watch that. Put him in there with Floyd. I'll watch it right now. Do it. Put it on. That's where I'm at. Put Jake Paul in there with Floyd Mayweather. That's what I want to see. Or not even Floyd. Put him in there with Golovkin. Or put him in there with Canelo. Canelo's a big boy. The nigga fought at 191. I believe they fought at 191. Put him in there with Canelo. Since you want to be a boxer, put him in there with a boxer. What are we talking about here? Why is he fighting non-boxers? Why is he boxing non-boxers but talking about he's a boxer? Box a boxer. That's where I'm at with it. So, whatever, it'd be cool to see non-boxer Tyron Woodley go out there and try and do it. I would like to see him box a boxer. Or fight Ben Askren in an MMA fight. If you want to fight MMA fighters, fight them in MMA rules. Stop calling out non-boxers for a boxing match. Call out Canelo Alvarez. Call out Floyd Mayweather. Floyd is already scheduled to fight your brother, or he's planning on it. Sure, he whoop your ass too. In the same night, he would fight both y'all. In the same goddamn night. On a lighter note, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you niggas is aware. I don't know if you niggas have seen it, but the circle is back, my nigga. I feel like I usually wouldn't be into too much shit like this. You know what I'm saying? These kind of reality shows. But this one, I don't know, it's just done in a way that's pretty interesting. If you don't know about the circle, it's like they put people in these apartments, and then they can only communicate with each other. It's like 8 people. They can only communicate with each other through this like social media platform called the circle. And then you upload just like one picture, and you can only like communicate through text. And if you last longer through the show, like through the game, you can like at a certain point add a second picture, at a certain point add a third picture, so they can know a little more about you. But some of the contestants are, catfish. They're sometimes men pretending to be like, it could be a black dude pretending to be a little white girl or some shit like that, or it's just like people are catfishing. Like for instance, on this season 2, you have a woman pretending to be pop star Lance Bass. And doing a terrible job of it. But you have someone catfishing as pop star Lance Bass. All in an effort to win a $100,000 prize at the end. It's just like a popularity contest. But it gets pretty interesting, you know what I'm saying? Just to like see how people interpret these messages and just like start fucking being diehards for other people. I'm just sitting here like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you're all trying to win this money. Stop like, oh no, I gotta support my girl over here. It's like, no you don't. No you don't. That's not what you're here for. But it's like, they had some interesting characters. You got there was this beef between these two characters, Tara Alicia and this girl Savannah. They became the influencers on the first episode of the season. Influencers, as I was saying, it was like a popularity contest. So at some point in the social media app or whatever, will be like, all right, now it's time to rate all the contestants. So you rate everybody in the house or on the show in the game from 1 to 7 or whatever for a popularity contest. And the two people with the highest rating, they become influencers, and then they have the power to send one player home. One of the other 6 players that didn't become an influencer. So Tara Alicia and Savannah were influencers. They sent someone home. And then from that point on, it was just like a lot of shit talk, people saying this person's trying to stab this person in the back, and it was yada, 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 all this drama. And they send this one girl, Savannah, home. I felt like I wanted her to go home. She was like, I don't know, she was saying some lies, just trying to front. Because at that point, like, Tara Alicia was just like, I felt like she was being more honest about the person they sent home. And that they decided to send home together. And Savannah tried to turn it all around and lie as if like, no, you were saying this and you wanted it, blah, blah, blah. So at that point, and then she was hitting other people up, trying to lie even more and saying, just to get these people on their side. And it's just like, hopefully they're team Savannah. And it's like, dude, you're you become an influencer. And then after you make that block, after you cut someone, like, you're no longer an influencer. So it's like, oh, I hope they're team this or team that. And it's like, dude, you guys have no power. Why would people still just be loyal to these two people because they were voted popular the first vote? Like, now they have no power. You know what I'm saying? Like, now they have no power. But I don't know, it's a fucking interesting show. I can't believe people are believing that this lady that's pretending to be Lance Bass. Apparently she used to be she's been his assistant for all these years, for like 20, 30 years or whatever. She's been his assistant. So she's like, oh, I know a lot about him, blah, blah, blah. And one of the people asked, like, if you're Lance Bass, then why are you on this show competing with us for $100,000? And she's like, oh, her answer as Lance Bass is that that Lance Bass is competing to get $100,000 so he can put the money toward an NSYNC reunion tour. My wife looks up the net worth of Lance Bass, and it's like $22 million. You're telling me a guy with a net worth of $22 million, and it, might I add, his band fucking mate is Justin fucking Timberlake. You need to compete with regular ass people for $100,000 to put a tour together with Justin Timberlake, my nigga? What kind of sense does that make? And nobody was like, yo, this nigga is a little fake. This nigga is not Lance Bass. Y'all just accepted Lance Bass saying, I'm competing on a game show with regular people for $100,000 to do an NSYNC tour, and y'all are just like, okay, I don't like the sound of that, but okay. Nobody caught on to that nonsense. What I caught on to, that I was like, you know, what really tells that this person isn't Lance Bass? In Lance Bass, well, they asked Lance Bass what he's been doing, what he's been up to or whatever about the industry, the entertainment industry. And he said that he currently does a daily podcast. So you do a daily podcast and somehow you're in this house on the circle while you're doing a daily podcast. I was like, yo, you just gave yourself away that you're not Lance Bass because he's not recording his podcast from this show. Like, how would they're not going to let him keep communication with the outside world like that if nobody else can? You know, that wouldn't make any sense. But Yeah, nobody called Lance Bass on that fucking blatant nonsense. But I'm looking at it like, yo, that fucking tells you that's not him. That's somebody else. But there's catfish throughout it. It's pretty, the drama's high. I'm into it. And I would say, like, the characters right now that I would think would be my front runners. There's this guy who, I don't know his real name, but he's pretending to be a little white girl named Courtney. There's this tall white guy who's pretending to be a little girl named, she's not a little girl. She's a young girl, but she looks pretty small. Definitely in relative to, he looks like he's like fucking 6'4". Like he's like a tall, lanky white dude playing this like young 20-something fucking white girl. I think he's a front runner, even though I think some people are a little suspicious and feels like he doesn't have like backbone or she doesn't have backbone. I think enough people like Chloe because Chloe's pretty neutral when they're speaking to that character, Chloe. And then there's the guy, Courtney. I think Courtney could win this whole thing. I think Courtney has I think Courtney's playing the game right, and I think enough people like Courtney. Courtney's just got good energy about him. You know what I'm saying? I think Courtney could definitely win the whole thing. But I was saying to my wife, I was like, I would find it interesting to be on that show if I could, but like, I don't know how to talk cool. I don't necessarily use like emojis. I've just like recently started using emojis, especially when I was started to trying to build up my Instagram. Before that, I was like completely old guy reluctant on using emojis and shit like that. So as I watched like fucking the circle, and they're like hashtag blah blah blah, and like people just know what the fuck to use. I'm like, dude, I would never be able to speak to any of these people. They'd be right away like, who's this fucking psychopath right here, just using straight sentences, LOLs out the fucking world, LMAF, ROTFLs, nigga. I'm throwing out all that shit. That's where I'm at with that shit. So like, it's like, dude, I wish I could be on that show, but I don't know how to talk cool. I don't know how, like, what's the subreddit? What is the subreddit for me to stay up on new slang terms? When you niggas started saying turn up and lit and all that shit, I was like, who agreed to this? What's happening? Who agreed? Who agreed to this? I don't know what y'all saying right now. The whole time I thought niggas was saying chili. My wife's telling me they're saying child. Like child, but child. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where this slang comes from and why you guys consent to it. But I didn't agree to this shit. I didn't sign off on this. Who spoke to me? I didn't sign off on this. So I don't know the cool things to say. I'll never know the cool things to say to people when it comes to talking like a cool person. I'll never know the hashtags, the new fucking acronyms niggas is using. I don't know. I'll never know what emojis niggas is using or what. When I text my wife, I use pretty much, there's 2 to 3 emojis that I send my wife. And I'm not going to expose it, right? Well, I'll expose it. It's the one where I think niggas got like his hand on his chin, where he's like questioning. Usually most of I don't even actually remember. It's most of the emojis that I use are just like people real curious or some shit like what? Like what's going on over there? Those are the only 3 fucking emojis that I use. Just inquiring emojis. But we had UFC Vegas 24, man. The co-main event was going to be Drakkar Klose versus Jeremy Stephens. But that fight was canceled. So at the face-off, Jeremy Stephens pushes Drakkar Klose just out of nowhere, just pushes him. And they're saying, like, Drakkar Klose, like the night before, like the night of, like right as the pay-per-view, as the card is supposed to start, they announced that Drakkar Klose had to pull out due to an injury, and then they show the videos of the push and how he's limping afterwards, and Drakkar Klose comes out with a statement saying that immediately after he got pushed, his right hand went numb and all this shit, and his neck went stiff. So they tried to work on him, but he wasn't able to compete. He woke up the next day and still felt like shit, and he was throwing up. And then pretty much those are signs of a concussion. And they're saying it's pretty easy for the way he got pushed. He was just sitting there calm, and then the dude just pushed him as hard as he could, and they were showing how his head whiplashed. They're saying when you're calm like that and your head whiplashes, it's real easy for your brain to move around in your head, and that's what will cause a concussion. So we lost the co-main event, the original co-main event, because Jeremy Stevens needed to push Drakkar Klose. They asked why you pushed Drakkar Klose, and he was because he was in my face during a face-off. So whatever. But we had some real good fights, man. There's some good fights throughout the night. I'm not going to talk about all of them. We had Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. So, man, I was half watching the first two rounds while half watching Jake Paul and Ben Askren. I was hoping that they would wait for the Ben Askren fight until after Whittaker, but they did it at the same time. But then, thankfully, unfortunately, Askren was knocked out immediately, so I could watch the last 3 rounds unhindered. But no, Whittaker was just dominating him with the striking. I could see. He caught him early with the leg kick in the first round, and he was just backing him up, catching him with some catch hooks, and he just Gastelum would just keep coming forward, rushing in, and it looked like Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker, but they switched roles. You know what I'm saying? The way Whittaker was just rushing in and getting caught with that check hook from Adesanya, now you got fucking Whittaker just moving backwards, just catching him with these check hooks, catching him with all these strikes. And Gastelum is just rushing forward. And his coaches are saying, yo, we need some more movement. Don't just, keep rushing in there. Throw some feints, do all that. And I seen, Gastelum kind of, give his coach a look whatever or some shit. I don't know, he just, kind of looked at him as if that was, some non-advice. But it was just dude, you're just rushing in there and getting caught. And he just kept doing it. And Whittaker wins via unanimous decision, 50-45s across the board. And they showed that Marvin Vettori was there, right before the fight started. I was damn, I didn't know he was there. And then they were highlighting how Kelvin Gastelum and Marvin Vettori are teammates. And I was damn, dude, what if Gastelum wins here? But, fortunately for them, that wasn't the case. But you could see even, before this fight, Vettori was saying, dude, he was even if Whittaker wins, he's not hungry. I can see he doesn't want this fight. But he looked better than he ever has, in his career. Whittaker did in this fight. Completely dominated Vettori's teammate. And you could see after the fight, he looked upset because he knew he wasn't getting the next title shot. After that fight, he just had a tough fight, I would say, with Kevin Holland. And Robert Whittaker just dominated Kelvin Gastelum. So you could see it in his face. He knew he wasn't getting a title shot. Maybe he could fight Paulo Costa. I would like to see that. Adesanya tweets out, "Good job, my son," to Robert Whittaker, and they tell him about it. They're "Oh, Adesanya tweeted out, 'Good job, my son.'" What do you say that? And he's "Well, he beat me the first time, so I guess he can talk trash." Man, Whittaker's super cool about the whole shit. He's yeah, he beat me, so he's got the right to keep talking shit until I can do something about it. But he wants the rematch. That's the fight to make. It's pretty interesting that pretty much every fight for Adesanya coming up, maybe for the next 2 years, is a rematch. You got Whittaker, Gastelum, Vittori, Brunson, Costa. And all rematches. All at the top of the division. It's all rematches. Unless Cannonier or Till can do something. It's all rematches. But we'll see. But we gotta have Adesanya versus Whittaker next. Whittaker looks much improved. His wrestling looked a lot better. And you know he's gonna throw that in there against Adesanya, who looked to struggle against Jan Blachowicz. So I'm excited for that rematch. That's the one we need. But that's probably going to lead into a trilogy if Whittaker is able, if he's able to win. If he's able to have a better account of himself. So I'm excited for that fight. Excited for what can happen. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we got UFC 261. Got Kamaru Usman defending his belt in a rematch versus Jorge Masvidal. And I honestly paid very little attention during the first fight. I'll try to watch it again, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just not a big fan of Masvidal. I thought he was going to get dominated in the fight, and he did. So I wanted him to lose the first fight, and I want him to lose this fight. And that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas. This is probably what I think is going to be the fight of the night. Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas for the belt. Zhang's defending against Rose Namajunas, who claims to be fighting for freedom. Rose is going on these borderline racist fucking rants about how she's fighting for freedom, and just because Zhang Weili is Chinese, she's saying Zhang Weili represents communism just because she was born in China. So she represents the opposite of freedom, is what Rose is saying. And it's like, dude, we're at a time where you're seeing all this anti-Asian shit all over the place. So much hatred in America for Asians. And this is the time that you choose to say, like, oh, nope, I'm fighting for freedom because she's Chinese. Like, bro, you're fucking on a racist rant right now. Like, this whole rant Namajunas is on is racist, right? It's not the right time, all right? Even if it wasn't meant to be racist, this is not the right time. This is terrible timing for that. And even if it was meant to be racist, given the whole climate, it's terrible fucking timing for you to fucking voice those opinions. So I'm rooting for Zhang Weili in this fight to beat the hometown girl and Rose Namajunas. Let's go, Zhang Weili. Viva la Zhang. Viva la China. Stop being racist, Rose. And I'm going with Zhang Weili. Then you got the third belt being defended, and I don't think it's no accident that they put these belts on the same card together. I think they're trying to stir up if Valentina wins and if Zhang Weili win, that they can fight next. And I would love to see, even if Rose is able to beat if Rose is able to beat Zhang, I'd like to see Valentina fight Rose Namajunas. Assuming that Valentina Shevchenko successfully defends her belt against Jessica Andrade. This is the third title fight. I think this is going to be the toughest challenge that Shevchenko's had. Honestly, Andrade is so super powerful. She has a great skill set. She's improved her striking that you saw from the second Rose fight and from her last fight that got her here into the title shot. She's going to be probably one of the more powerful people that Shevchenko's fought outside of Nunes. I think this is her toughest challenge since Amanda Nunes, but I'm still going with Valentina Shevchenko. I believe she is the best mixed martial artist active. She's the best active mixed martial artist today. So I'm going to go with Valentina Shevchenko, and I think they're trying to set up Shevchenko fighting whoever wins the belt between Rose Namajunas and Zhang Weili. I think that's what they're looking for another champ, because then if Valentina moves up or moves down or whatever, I don't know who would move up or down, but I think Valentina, it would be better if Valentina became another champ, because then when they have Valentina and Amanda Nunes eventually fight again for the third time, you got champ versus champ. The two most dominant women in all of UFC history colliding for official GOAT status. I think that would be a much better storyline if you could. And I'm going to give you guys a social medias. If you want to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You can follow my personal account at my name's Jermaine. You can email this podcast at Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. You can follow this podcast at Babylon5.podbean.com. You can listen to this podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts stream. And if you guys are on Xbox, go ahead and add me at SauceBloss414. You can add me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Babylon5. If you guys want to go ahead and buy some merchandise, go to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. Go ahead and support the podcast at patreon.com/Babylon5Pod, where you guys will get this episode every week immediately after I record it. Today's probably like one of the later times, about like 7:30 right now as I'm finishing this up on Sunday. I usually record a lot earlier than this, but yeah, you'll get this immediately on Sundays after I'm done recording if you're a patron. Patreon, so head over to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod, and you guys can add me on TikTok at Babylon5Podcast. This is episode 87, Moca. Yeah, I'm calling this Moca. Hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and each other. Happy 420 to all you guys out there, to all my smokers. And I'll see you when I see you. I'll holla.